hope everything's working all right. We start the marriages. Jesus, I'm tired. I'm sorry, the births, and nothing exciting happened on the Spanish side. I'm just looking at this to make sure I think one of their princesses died at 15. On the Italian side, the Italian king died, and he isn't all that old. That leaves a minor female as essentially the heir, with a regent of her brother. Now, I'm sorry, her uncle. The next regent, the next prince down there is actually came of age and is a Spanish-controlled pretender. And we have that marked over here for now. As well as on here, no children have come on the Italian family either. And I think I rolled for him. Actually going to track these pretenders on the nation that controls them. Now, but the thing is that's kind of weird. Italy can buy him back for $50. He's not very valuable right now, but he would be if the line suffers more attrition. So that's not, it's not impossible. And I think I screwed up. Ralph was made regent over Paul. I think it would make it more sense for me to make Paul the regent. So let's do that instead. Dynastic failure in Germany as well, with the king dying. And I should remove someone. And again, a 5-year-old princess. And unlike real Europe, again, there's not a whole hell of a lot of reason for anyone to not to bypass, an underage female. It's just, I find it really kind of fucked up, actually. That death actually got rid of the Anglo-German alliance, which, I don't know how big a deal that is. Germany's probably going to get themselves established in northern France across the board, and probably Calais as well. Now that they're free to do so. But we'll see how the English take to that. Unfortunately for France, they lose their only remaining male, the Duke of Aquitaine, who leaves Isolde back in a weird situation. So that's a French-controlled Spanish princess who the French are going to be able to marry off. But they can't keep her in the family. I mean, they can't use her in the family anymore. So she's basically just a regular princess. I don't know what the hell happens. Like, if France comes to some deal trading her away, that's just weird. But I might be able to get a younger son or something for my queen. And now I have a very young princess who is actually the Duchess of Aquitaine now. But I don't own Aquitaine, so I'm not sure the title can pass on if I don't own it. It's easier if I don't. Although technically, she should hold that title. Those kind of things become fuzzy very quick if territory is not held for a long period of time. So I'm just gonna let that drop. There's probably not good rules on it, and I'm too tired to look anything up. But yeah, the French are not in the best of positions. But I do have 2 females available. One I can maybe marry off to get myself a husband. excluded from the dynasty for one of the from one of the other families. I really don't think I'm awake enough to do the marriages here. I'm really struggling. This morning, before work, I guess, kind of, I tried doing the marriage phase, and I rolled kaput, and they have their two daughters. Well, they have two females, but the problem is there's just so many of these pretenders in play. That's one of the factors. So, like, I was looking at some kind of exchange where, I don't know who it was with, Spain, I think. Let's see, that would be the Royales, right? Where, so I've got two females. One, I want a male who will revoke all priority for, and the other will, yeah, and the fact that never causes a dynastic issue is problematic in my view. And the other would be my, my payment, essentially, which is the Spanish daughter. Now, I can't marry into the Spanish family. So that's the first thing. So that's out of the question. Although I could marry someone to Lorenzo Lonosisto with her. So, I mean, there's someone the Spanish control who could have her. But that doesn't really do... Like, Spain's not going to try to get a marriage to one of... to the Italian prince that they happen to control. But they could marry that Italian prince off to Eleanor, but then they can't marry their own family because it's only the name that counts. So then the Lustenbergs, which is what I would really like to marry into to create a peace with, I think, because it doesn't look to me like Spain is anywhere near me. But they have a problem in that they have no males who are old enough, so we can just take them out of the condition. They only have females, a couple of them. The Lonosistos have, and this is, I think, what I was working with here, because the plant heads would be a possibility here. I think, maybe not. Nope, they don't have anyone. They have one son, but they don't control him. The Italians control him. So they're out of the question. So I was trying to get something, and I don't know how far I got with, let's see, we have Ralph here, and we have Robert Planthead. And between the two of them, we actually could do a marriage with the Caputs. And Italy's not opposed, certainly, to the marriage itself. They don't mind. So what they'd be doing is giving Robert Planthead away to Eleanor and getting the Spanish princess for themselves because they don't want to give their own prince away. And Robert's not particularly a useful prince. So that trade in and of itself could just happen as the only way to get an heir for the French throne. But does the heir matter? Well, the one reason it might matter is that makes Eleanor, this young princess here, marriageable. Because I cannot have any royal marriages without an exclusion. And that's kind of the problem. So the queen could make an exclusion, but Eleanor would be in the same position, essentially. I would have to force an exclusion because she's the only heir unless Eleanor has children. So that's the reason why I'd want a marriage as the French. And also, if I could get a peace out of it. And I don't know what the fuck happened. I thought I rolled odd for it and then maybe walked away unable to write it down or something. but I think I'll re-roll it if that's the case, because I'm not sure if I rolled odd for it. And you know, the marriage situation is getting really complicated now because people are marrying off people that aren't of their dynasty, possibly to their own dynasty. That's great, but to other dynasties as well. So we're going to go with that. So the Italians are going to be willing to give peace to the French. I don't need this shit. That'll protect my northern border from the from the French. Am I protected from the Germans? God, who the fuck knows anymore? Okay, so they have no marriages, and this one's a Spanish. No. This one's, yeah, they have a marriage with the Germans. The Germans are blocked everywhere. They're at war with England now, finally. Okay. So I have to write up that marriage, and I think that's what I had. But basically what I'm going to be doing is the Italians are going to marry the English prince that they control off to the French queen in exchange for the Spanish princess who's a who's a widow of the Duke of Aquitaine. That doesn't, normally that would revert back to the family, but the only reason she got married to him at all was the French were controlling her. She's again a pretender, and any nation could step in, pay its $50 and prevent this at this point. I don't think anybody wants to. I don't think they care enough. There's the bounty to consider too. So as long as it's the Italians who are making this deal, they're going to get the $100 for marrying into the queen. Even though it's an English prince, I guess. Now, the English could step in, pay $50 and cancel this, and then the deal just doesn't go through. And would that $50 give them anything? Well, no, they don't have another male to cut the deal with France. They would be fine cutting the same kind of deal with France, although obviously maybe the French are more interested in the deal with the Italians, but it's hard to tell. Calais is still English, and it's very attractive to England as they're way onto the continent. The game rulebook suggests, hey, if you're England, you know, one of the things you want to do is make a decision. You probably want to give up Calais unless you're going to be fighting France and or Germany. But it's like, well, what are you going to do otherwise? You know, sail around and rely on boats? They're not the most effective way to get yourself somewhere. So I'm finding myself really, really relying on Calais a lot. The boats are enough to seal the wall in the sense that, like, they make it a little harder for the landing, and to ensure that I can regain Calais whenever I need to, because nobody else pays their boats for whatever reason to leave them in the English Channel. So yeah, I think I'm just going to let it fly through as it is, with the English not trying to prevent it because they're not able. So like if they could spend the $50 and get 100 or something like that, that would be great, but they can't. At least I don't think they can, you know. I mean, this is a timing issue, right? In the midst of the marriage, does it all transact at once? Or can the English wait until the Italians set up this marriage, which does most of what the Italians want, and then grab the 50 extra bucks by spending 50 and getting 100? A lot easier to handle with the little sheets of paper. Because I wouldn't have to track all these sort of temporary placements of a particular dynastic person. And I probably would still want to keep the dynastic charts. I just wouldn't be relying on them to keep all the information in. Basically, I think you need both. You need the little card, you need little cards or something that you can trade around. But the problem is, you have to print so many fucking cards or sheets. There are probably enough to play once, maybe twice, but that's about it. And this is why I haven't, like, starting last night, my head started hurting thinking about what the relationships might be. And this is not the end. We still have 4 more females open. 2 in Italy. Let's see if they're Italian. They have Julia and Maria. Okay, so they're just normal. They can plug in anywhere, no big deal with them. And for the Germans, I have Lucinda and Odette, and again, just normal females, nothing special there. That'll make things a lot easier. Countries are very, very unlikely to marry off a male prince of another dynasty. But if they do, where does that prince go? Like, okay, so let's say you have a male prince who's a pretender. What happens to their children? Do they have any rights to anything? Are they in the succession? And the pretender was, I guess, it's not really a pretender. It's just a sort of like a treasonous royal or something, who might end up becoming a pretender, but it's a very, very different situation. A pretender should be somebody with a reasonable claim of some sort or another, or not, who rises up and isn't part of one of these families, I would say. Everybody else is having a tough time. The marriages are there. Italy and Germany both have two females. Now, Spain and Germany already have a treaty and don't care much. They're probably going to be actually transferring goods by sea, assuming they can get them by the English. But they have some of those goods recorded in this treaty here. Italy and Germany currently are at peace. And Italy doesn't particularly want to extend that peace, because we would like to defeat the Germans. What we would like is a peace with the Spanish. The Spanish are putting a big cost on that peace, though. They want this, and this back. That gives Italy a fair amount of stuff. I have not rolled on this. It might be worthwhile for Italy to do. The problem with it is Italy has sheep. They create grain. Italy wants metal right now. So, and that's something Spain neither has nor produces temporarily. So we might be able to make some sort of deal. But it's a rough cut. Now, if I make a deal with the Germans, I can get metal from them probably in exchange for, God, I don't know what do the Germans want? And yeah, I'm really chatty right now because I'm having fucking trouble playing this game. The Germans would like grain. The Italians currently are sitting on 2 grain. So maybe cutting a deal of grain for metal. Of course, the Germans don't want to do that without a peace, and the Italians don't want to give them a peace. Yes, the Germans want their grain, and they might make a per turn deal, but they don't want to enshrine it in a marriage, because if you're having to transport stuff while you're at war with someone, that's just bullshit. And you're at war with someone if you're not at peace. So, I mean, it's very obvious there are going to be border incursions going on if they are not at peace. They are going to be fighting. So any kind of deal that doesn't involve peace, Germany's just like, no, that doesn't make sense. And Germany's very happy. They own a bunch of Italy. They own a slice of France and can get more. Who did we just cut a deal with the French? We cut a deal with the Italians, of all people, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I think the only deal that Italy can reasonably come to is this one, where they are giving the 2 territories to the Spaniards and the home territory in exchange with a peace, and probably no trade at all. And what does that no trade at all mean for us? It's not particularly good. The problem is the Spaniards, so the Italians are going to take their chance on this and see if they can destroy Spain this turn. The Italians don't have as big an army, but they have better leadership by a bit. Because there's a bunch of these Spanish princes, but they all suck. They don't add anything. They add a strength point. So it's really just a matter of the amount of armies that Spain can build with 9 provinces in their homeland plus 4 leaders to whatever Italy can produce with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and only 2 princes. So they're going to have about half the army that the Spaniards have at best. But yeah, I think we're done with marriages. Let me see if I can figure out a deal between Italy and Germany that's at least temporary. The armies are built. England, with their rebellions, is not able to build as many armies as I thought. And honestly, I don't know if they can build any because they don't control their capital. When do you buy rebellions off? Removing rebellion by payment is before raising forces. Let me pay that money, because if the capital's in revolt and I can't clear it, and that's the situation I'm pretty close to being in. It's not absolutely that, but I want to have an army available. I think I have to clean that up. So I'm going to owe some more money for them. Other countries, well, Spain can't build many armies because they also have rebellions and they have Italians in their country. So they're not going to have that big force pool that I was hoping for. And maybe they were asking too much. We'll see. Italy builds up its navy. It can't build any more armies. Half its country is conquered. And Germany builds its army up the rest of the way. Why? Well, we're technically able to go to war with England. So we would like to take Calais and then see where we go from there. Do we want to build a navy? What the fuck? Why not? Let's put some threat on the English. It's not just a matter of, I don't know what I'm saying. The game itself, which is causing me issues right now. I've had some COVID fog the last couple days, and today's been particularly hard emotionally as well. I had to pay to have my wife powdered. And that's a whole lot more money than you would think. It just sounds like, I mean, I think I could have done it in that thing, no? Anyway, I assumed that, like, you could just tell the morgue or whatever, hey, just dispose of it. Because they dispose of bodies. They must have some cheap way of doing it. But, this went through a funeral home and everything, and it's not, I asked them for the cheapest way, and, it just seems like there would be some other way. And if they want to get the powder to you, that just shouldn't cost that much more than whatever the cheapest is. But whatever. They had to keep the body refrigerated until all my paperwork is signed and everything. And because there were delays on their end, I didn't end up paying for anything extra for that. I think I had to pay for refrigeration, but it wasn't like, it was like 1 day or something rather than the week or so. Well, yeah, it's more than a week that it's been there. But their person was out of office for several days and everything. And it's just like, there's got to be an easier way to do this for someone who doesn't want to come in and look at the body and all this. That doesn't cost so damn much. And obviously, given the situation, even if I have like an accidental death or dismemberment insurance on her, which I think we do through the banks or something, it's not gonna pay out for this shit. So, because that's like $10,000, and it's like, wow, that would pay normal normal costs, reasonable costs. This is not anywhere near that high, but you know, whatever. It would be nice to at least have all the costs taken care of. But no. First thing we have to deal with is the war with the Scots. The storms have already been checked, but the English player is going to throw $5 in. That way on a 1, I don't waste money, essentially. I don't think I need my armies all that terribly much. So, you know, every $5 saves me an army, but only if I roll that many. So I lose 1 army, and I'll take it from up here. And that, of course, goes into the death pile. And that's going. I should have known who the first player is. It's going to be France. Let's draw another card. We're just trying to make sure we get things. So we got widespread rebellions and possible storm. Storm doesn't matter. There's nobody at sea. Thing I want to point out, first of all, I'm doing them, you know, as I grab the clipboards because I need to be able to see the charisma. So, for example, Italy was immune because of that. But the Spanish had revolts already in place, or rebellion, and that adds an additional -1, making it more likely to spread. That's making sure I accidentally put one in here. This also was immune. And I think that's it for Spain. I'll just keep working my way through. Put down a little rebellion in Brittany. No biggie there. The English are in trouble. I think I've got to give Calais up to the Germans, basically, and maybe more, because right now, if I go on the continent, Germany can attack me. Other people could too. England's at peace with the Italians, and that is it, I think. Yeah. Italy's at peace with a lot of people. I could run down and take, you know, some French territory or something, but anything I do outside of Brittany really exposes me to the German army, and I'm just better staying in England. Is actually in an uglier position than I first thought. Their forces could have attacked Angoulême, where there was nothing, and here in Aragon, where they did attack, I sent my princes off because risking the entire royal family in a battle seems like a bit much. So they went and cleared up a rebellion in Galicia. But this means, so it looked like the Italian forces all spread out, easy to pick on, but it really wasn't. It was all protected. There was one unit I was able to stomp, and now we're on the Germans, who are at peace with a lot of people too. Little situation, remember Germany and Italy made a deal. We haven't completed that. Germany completed their part of it, but Germany has a long-standing deal with the Spaniards, but no longer has a border with them. However, we do have boats, so each side is actually sending their requirements forward. This should be at sea, and it could sink because of that. Assesses their position and decides they actually are no better than the Spanish king. They add up to +2. The Spanish king adds up to +2. He has more troops. It's not worth taking a risk, so we're falling back a little, protecting our goods. And this can't be attacked immediately, but it does mean that southern France is going to end up Spanish again, probably. Slowly. Maybe not all at once. So yeah, the Spanish actually probably were offering a reasonable deal to the Italians, and I just didn't see it. Things started, there's a new mercenary captain. He'll be bid on the next interphase. I think just with cash. They're really awesome. They had +2. And this is kind of weird. He adds +2 to the character's strength. Oh, I guess he stacks with a royal counter. He actually isn't just a general. That's a pity. Italy didn't have much they could do. They're in the same position as before. They'd rather stay a little bit forward to react if Spain does anything. Having to go first means Spain could now get a double jump on them. England, well, Germany fucked up. Germany exposed their king, and the English have sent their navy across. There's only one German ship here. The entire English navy, you can't stop 4 ships, no matter what. So they were able to sail across. They left their prince back behind, but yeah, we're gonna take Calais back. Maybe capture the German king if he's not careful, and I think he wants to be careful and run away. Who done fucked up now? The Germans are going to be able to put a bigger army into Calais. The English will have nowhere to retreat to. We took some hits, but it doesn't look as... By the way, that's not... Neither one's a king, I think. The English one is, right? The English is a king, but the German is just a regent. A reprieve as the German and English armies try to annihilate each other. The Germans get the slight edge. They had the combat bonus advantage, but the English decided to stick around and fight because what the hell? Could get lucky. Slightly skewed against me, but that's all right. It's only a regent up there. No, it's my king. Fuck. Whatever. But the Germans beat them, and the English were able to flee out to sea by taking a pass on 1 round of combat. And that's the end of the second. Stuff. First of all, there's a plague, which is going to cause, I believe that's off the random province table, but I gotta look up to see if that's how the card works. It says follow normal rules from plague from the basic game. Plague is the first one. The second die roll, how many provinces, and then you roll the provinces on this random province table. And I think that's for each province that's involved. I don't know. I'll look to see, there might be specifics in there, like if you get the same province twice, you roll again, whatever. But there's also a storm, which is a potential big deal for the English only. What do we have? Well, I guess everybody's on one ship because that makes it safer, or that makes it more extreme. So the ship sinks on a 1 or a 2. I'll make the blue one the interesting one. And so we lose 1 English ship. But otherwise, I think they're driven to shore. It's so hard to find the headings in this book. They could have been bolder. They do them in all caps, but they don't do them bold. No, it's either affected or it's not. Okay, so the rules for it are you roll a die, see how many provinces are affected. All 6. All right, and yeah, it doesn't say anything about re-rolling or not, but 6 provinces affected to me means I gotta get 6 successes. So 1, 2, France, Champagne. There's no one there. Now, the one restriction, this is going to kill all armies, causes a penalty survival check against anyone who's there, but it doesn't affect anyone in the capital. Any royal in the capital. And I think that includes ones who have pieces and are considered with their army. So that was 1, and we'll just count these out as we go. The second one is 10-6, Granada. Hoping something happens. 3-5, Asturias. That's up here. Ten. 4, Apulia, nothing there. 7-3, Moravia, pretty sure nothing's there. Oh geez, I forgot to move these. Let's get them in. Right. That was the 5th. And the last one is 9-1 Angoulême. No one there. Okay, well that was pretty exciting. Lots of die rolling and checking, no impact. Or wild card France might have played in this game. They are mostly out now. The Germans went and took Brittany, and there's no castle to defend it. The capital's there, but it doesn't have a castle. There is no more France on the board. They're a dynasty. So everybody who is in the capital escapes except for the leaders who were, on the board. That leader was Robert Planthead, who is the Queen's consort, and he's now captured and in Germany. The French can't even spawn. The only hope they have right now is this Princess Eleanor. And honestly, if the dynasty dies out, which is possible, although I don't know if I'm going to make it to the end of the game. If the dynasty dies out without having, any land, I'm going to just let it go, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to generate some distaff claim that, and start up a new dynasty if there's nothing to be ruling over. Things like that happened, but, whatever. Spain launched their attack on Italy, and they're kind of regretting not bringing more troops. At this point, we're at 3 versus 3 at equal. You can see the Spanish have been getting the worst of the die rolls. This is a point where the players could actually negotiate the end of the battle and just agree that Spain gets to leave. That is allowed. I'm not sure. Does it make sense? Do you want to go all or nothing? Where you maybe capture the other person's dynasty. Let's see what the dynastic situation is. So Juan is the king of Spain. He's very good. He would like to live, especially since his children kind of suck. On the other hand, let's take a look at the Los Sistos. We have the regent there, and we have Ralph. And they're kind of good too. The regent's especially good. Neither one really wants to get lost. And this isn't a situation where, you necessarily get anything all that great if you capture the other person's king. You put them in a bad position. So, I'm going to roll, and on anything but a 6, they're going to agree to disagree. Yeah. So the Spanish are going to fall back to the Dauphin. This is actually an advantage for Spain because they have more troops available. That's the thing. Italy can't agree to that unless Spain is willing to give them peace. Spain is willing to give them peace for the remainder of the turn. There isn't much turn. Yeah, no, it's fine. No need to worry. Because next turn, both sides will be able to build armies. Now, the Spanish army is much more depleted than the Italian in terms of being able to build it back, but I don't think that's really that big a deal. Shithead. Is there a Spanish 4? So the Spanish have a lot of princes. Yeah, that's actually an Italian prince. And he's in here helping with I just bumped him. He's in there helping with the insurrections. Throw a unit back into Calais, taking it back. If we can come to peace with Germany, that's great. If not, sacrificing one more unit is probably not that horrible a thing. It's just a matter of giving up Calais is painful. And things might be significantly different, So that gives us our land crossing here as long as someone doesn't have more fleets than we do. That's not the case right now, but we did this with boats, so it was fine. Italy turns in a semi-luxury, and Germany turns in for 80, and Germany turns in a luxury set for 120, and that's it. Nobody else made any. I thought the Spaniards were supposed to get one, but they seem to have failed somehow. I'm not sure what happened. They had a deal with Germany. Did the Germans, did I not mark that? Oh, they were supposed to give medal to Italy, and they did. Where are the fleets? Jesus. There's the Spanish fleet. I don't know what the fuck happened to the German fleet. I mean, Italy turned in. That came down this way. That didn't come by boat. What was the other deal? Oh, here it is. Germany gave a luxury to Spain, and they have that. So yeah. So they weren't able to get their collection. They need a grain, and I think they were counting on maybe being able to intercept that or something, but they did not. And that is 1350. We go to 1355. A lot of stop and start in this game because I want to capture things, but the English king just died. We got a new king, Henry III, on the throne, and his brother is a prince. This is a downgrading of England's capabilities, really, but whatever. One of the more complex dynastic situations, Ralph, the prince of in Italy, died. He was not very old. He was 35. Now, his wife was Isolde in Royale, who is controlled by the French. So she's already been married once before. This is her second widowhood. And now she's back under control of the French, too old to really be too valuable. She's 30 years old, which, you know, isn't completely worthless, but she has a con penalty. She's really not too valuable. She's part of a marriage alliance between Italy and France. So half of that is now gone, but the plant head to Queen Eleanor marriage, again, you know, these are all marriages involving people who aren't part of the family that they're making the alliance for. So it's very, very fucking twisted. Has died. Well, anyway, so she's now available as a French-controlled female. My head is whirring. This is just almost impossible to understand. And I think I've rolled for everybody that I can on them. Assuming I tracked everything right, we have 5 females available, and quite a few princes probably loose. So there's a lot of room to make marriages. The plant heads have room to take a bride, so they could even get involved. But this one is that Isolde, who has been sold a lot of places. And some of these may not be spring chickens anymore. I don't know. We shall see. But now it's time to start figuring out if anybody's going to cut any deals. You know, I walked in today and I just decided I can't face it. I can't face the marriage contract part. I took off work today because grief, whatever. Largely, I've got to deal with this damn shit with the body, and I paid yesterday, and supposedly there's some sort of confirmation. The place has been jerking me around. It's been like over a week. It's been a week and a half that, like, I was ready to sign and just pay for whatever the fuck, you know. I mean, I told them they knew what I wanted, and the woman I've been dealing with, like, left for, was away from work for half a week or whatever. It's not like I'm getting charged for this, but emotionally I am. This has been, like, constantly fucking on hold. And yesterday I had to leave early because I'm getting stressed about this shit. Today I woke up and I'm like, okay, it's going to be over today. She's going to contact me in the morning. I just can't, I can't stay around and work for 4 or 5 hours in the early morning while I'm waiting. So I'll take the day off, and I went to sleep so I didn't have to think about it. And I'm still not getting any shit coming through. And god damn it. And the thing is, maybe it's all gone through, but she was supposed to call me. That's what they told me. Or email me or something. And I just fucking hate it. And anyway, again, the place where I broke, the midst of the marriage thing, it's not a good place to break, but I don't have the will to deal with the marriage stuff anymore. It's just getting too much. I think I'm at the end. I am trying to do the marriages and whatnot. I'm halfway through the amount of time that I hoped to maybe get through. A lot has fucking happened in my life since I set this up. And I'm in no condition to deal with, the sheets that I'm using have kind of expanded beyond being workable anymore, and I'd really have to tape shit together. The size of the families has gotten to the point where it's too difficult to keep in mind what I'm doing. And I'm having real trouble caring to make these arrangements, whatever. So Italy is saying, they came up in the marriage game. The Capuchins came up, and nobody has any real reason. Somebody might give them a few bucks for their daughter. That's about it, which isn't going to do much. And, they're not, it's not like they can play it out for the cash. So we're essentially losing the French dynasty as far as I can tell. It could rebirth, but who knows? Italy's at a negative point in terms of facing Spain, but they're kind of looking at it as, well, we're not going to be able to catch up with this. If we give Spain what they want, that's basically all of the French territory. This is not a good deal, or maybe we give them a slice of southern France and we're trading them a grain each turn, or giving them a grain each turn. And again, this is just, that's actually perhaps even better for Spain, because it might rely on this grain if that one somehow falls, out of our hands. The only thing that I'm a little disturbed by is it feels like Germany hasn't gotten a chance to take advantage of their current position. They are in a very strong position. And again, half the game's remaining, with less than half these little 100 coin bonds. Anyway, I'm going to clean this up. I'll give you rundowns on how much each person has. In terms of cash, that'll give you some idea of how well they did in terms of the victory conditions, because board presence doesn't really matter if we stop here or if we stop here. It's just whoever has collected the most money over the course of the game, which feels really ridiculous. Money did not have that kind of importance. There was no such existence, right? It wasn't like, I lost my country, but I have more cash than you. No, you couldn't have that kind of cash without the land involved, etc. So, yes, there were nations that had surpluses of cash. That just meant they could do more. It didn't mean that if that king somehow lost their crown, they walked away like some kind of South American dictator, and went into retirement. It's not a game of junta. It doesn't match. The victory conditions don't match the time period at all properly. And something like Empires of the Middle Ages does a much better job of expressing that. Your money doesn't fucking matter if you can't hold your country. So yeah, I'll do my calculations and come back. Adding up the cash, England had 1,026. They had a nice big run of things. Spain, 1,106. Ends up beating them out by a little bit for whatever reason. I'm actually a little surprised. Behind that, Italy and Germany in the 600s. France at 15. France, is gone. What had we seen? Well, we had seen a point where Italy looked like they were just knocked out. And Spain made them come back. They didn't have to. Spanish-German alliance, had it been able to be made, would have allowed Spain to hold more stuff. But Spain was looking incredibly powerful at that point. It might not have been possible. Like England had been powerful at one point. Really, England, Spain, and Italy all had been kind of impressive at one point or another in their time. Now is Germany's time to come forward, and they've expanded into Italy or in northern France. They might have attracted the ire of other players. Spain kind of stayed below the radar, which is the cool thing. They had good periods, but they were able, to not seem all that potent in most cases. Sure, when they got southern France, they had it for a little teeny while, but then Italy swept in and took much of it. So, it's hard to say anything about the situation because there's so much chaos in it. It's really a game in which there's so little restriction on the nation's interactions. The only restriction there really is those dynastic agreements, which can create unbalances that wouldn't happen in a game that had no such, binding agreements, right? So you might be very used to games that allow very flexible alliance structures where, you're doing pretty well right now, we're all going to gang up on you. That is disallowed by this, and it's actually one of the kind of nice things about it. But when you are allowed to take advantage of someone else, the results can be really, really rapidly changing. Very fluid. And you see that, one big victory, and then it's like, the English conquest of France and then the French reconquest of France. It can be really, really a massive thing that happens during the course of a couple of turns, In fact, quite a bit of distance can be gained in one turn if you wipe out one person's army, because you no longer have to beware of it. And one big battle can turn, the control of an area. Ahistorically, for the most part. There are very seldomly times when that kind of sweeping change would happen. And it seems like it's the norm in this game for various reasons. The effect of the leaders, it's important. It really is. A good leader on top of a huge stack can make a significant difference over a mediocre leader leading that same stack. And if you don't have the leader in the stack, your damage from the big stack effect is not nowhere near the same level. Which, again, that's all kind of appealing. I actually kind of like the combat system for this in some ways. I like this vast movements, etc. I wish it were not at all a historical game. It would please me a lot more if it wasn't set in Europe with the limitation, with this abstraction of 5 families and that's it. Yeah, the cards allow you some ingress into those, but I don't know what else I can say in terms of the wrap stuff. I'm already wandering into the review type material here. The biggest thing is the game seems to really blossom. I mean, it takes 20, 25 years for you to start seeing the effects of the ability to make marriages, etc. And then very, very quickly, the family trees just spread out. And you could really break this and make it even more impossible to play by rolling for extra children whenever possible and stuff like that, because they end up, the chance of losing family members from that is actually pretty low. So, like, the penalty on the mother is not that high. On the other hand, the actuality is most children are born fairly close to each other. Maybe not one a year, but one every 2 or 3 years. So you'd be seeing that extra roll happening in each case. And then here's what really kind of comes as a shafting to the intentions of this. The productivity of the mothers is too high as you start getting above an age. Yes, there are some women who just had tons and tons of children throughout their, whole reproductive period, but for the most part, for various reasons, some of which are, things like the husband's wandering eye, and no real need for an additional heir, and in fact, possibly even good reasons not to have additional children, because if you start creating too many in the reality of the situation, you might actually have some difficulty because you have to provide them with some kind of correct situation. But anyway, what I saw was, even here, the blossoming of the families was too heavy. It starts out, you have too little, you can't make deals. Your children are too young to cut any deals whatsoever. You fight things out, it's a period of chaos, and then it comes to a point where you can make many, many deals, more than maybe you want, and the burden of keeping track of all those children, the whole families, just starts to get larger. And it's not going to get smaller for the most part, right? It's not like these families are being reduced in general to anywhere near what they were in 1325. They just keep growing larger and larger. And this is one of the complaints you see from people is, wow, we kind of broke the game by creating way too many children. It doesn't really break the game. It's just, it doesn't really represent what is going on. And it's just, it's too much to keep track of and too much to deal with. And, these royal dukes and their children don't really have the same cachet in terms of creating dynastic alliances that is reasonably represented by the earlier stages of the game. And of course, the very earliest stage, there's no children to pawn, the children are too young to pawn off. Anyway, I'll load this sucker up.